Hello guys, what's up? This is Murtaza. Welcome back to the last episode of our SQL tutorial. In this video, we want to kind of go through the things that we talked about in this playlist, right? To have a simple conclusion, and then I am going to tell you where you can go to continue your learning. So let's go and see the list of the videos that we covered, that we talked about, right, in this playlist. So the first episode was about setting up Visual Studio Code to work with SQL databases. We installed a simple plugin, and then we made a connection to our database, and we saw the tables, and we started writing queries. The next one was about the select statement, right, which helps us to kind of get back some of the records from the database. So select basically helps us to filter the columns that we want to get back from the table. Then we talked about distinct and count. Distinct helped us to get rid of the duplicate records, right? And also count helped us to basically count the number of records that the selected statement gets us, right? Next, we talked about where clauses in 2 episodes, right? So where helps us to filter the records, not the columns, right? Based on some conditions. Then we talked about the operators, the logical operators and or not. Then we talked about order by, which helps us to sort the result set, the record based on one field or multiple fields, ascending, descending, and everything. Then we talked about the insert into statement, which helps us to insert records into a table. Then we talked about null values, so values which are absent, right? They're different from blank, zero, white space, right? Then we talked about update statements, which helps us to, update some records in the table. Then we talked about delete. Delete helps us to delete some records based on a condition that we, can specify in the where clause. Then we talked about top clause, which helps us to retrieve the topmost records from a table. We talked about some aggregate functions like mean, max, count, average, and sum. We talked about some operators like operator, which is very powerful, especially when combined with wildcard characters. They allow us to kind of retrieve some records, right, based on some patterns. Then we talked about the in operator, which helps us to have a list of items or values and then search those values. And if the value in the field that we are checking is among one of those values, that specific record will be returned. We talked about the between operator. We talked about the importance of aliases, right, and the flexibility that they give us. And then we talked about different joins. Joins are very important topic. We talked about inner join, the default type of join. Then we talked about left join, we talked about right join, and we talked about full outer join, or full join as it is sometimes called. We also talked about self join and some of its use cases. Then we talked about union, which allows us to combine or make a union of the results of more than one select statement. We talked about grouping our records based on the value of the fields. And then we talked about specifying a condition when using group by, which is done using having. Then we talked about exists, which helps us create subqueries, and based on the value that the subquery returns, we can have an outer query. We talked about any and all. We also talked about the select into, right, which helps us insert some values into a table or make a backup of a table. We talked about insert into select, which helps us get some of the records from the source table and then insert them into a target table. We talked about case, which is very like switch statements in programming languages. We can have some conditions, and based on the value of those conditions, we can return a result. We talked about 2 null functions, is null and coalesce. And finally, we talked about store procedures. And that was it. We talked about these 35 videos, and this is, of course, the last video in this playlist. Now, if you want to continue learning about SQL, what I would recommend is to go over the other playlist that I have here on a coder's journey, in which I have used, SQL Server Management Studio. It is about, some of the other data manipulation languages and data definition languages that you can use. I will also dive deeper into the other topics like indexes, like functions, store procedures, triggers, and so on. So I think if you have grasped the topics of this playlist, continuing with that new playlist would be a great idea. And I'm happy that you finished the course. I hope you've enjoyed watching the videos and you've learned many things. And yeah, that's it. I hope to see you in the next one. Thank you. Bye-bye.